Welcome to Shawnee Grows, where I encourage you all to learn as you grow. Tonight's show topic is the very first ever interview over here with Ken from the YouTube channel. It's all about the biology. So, Team Replay, I want to hear from you. What moments of this interview really stuck with you? If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section here in the chat as you come in. Please hit the thumbs up. Please share us out. If you have any questions, what I want you to do is either type the whole thing in all caps, or you can put a Q in front of the text or the word question. I just need it to stand out so I can catch it. I see we have some mods in the chat. I'll be looking for your help and guidance if we have any issues. Get my attention. Take care of it if you know how to. If there is a question that we missed, please help me out. We have Diva in the Dirt. Woohoo! Listening while making your sourdough bread. Miss Sharon, good to see you. Silly Lily, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Yes. So, Florida Sunshine made it. Hey there, Shawnee Grows. Good to see you. We have 9 watching. So, for a little backstory, who is Ken? Ken is a citizen scientist and researcher, the founder of It's All About the Biology. It's a channel on YouTube where you will find a multitude of podcasts. He is a speaker and educator on many topics, including how our world was formed through biology, treatment-free beekeeping, living soils, cannabis, Korean natural farming techniques, microgreens, building science, bringing the message that it truly is all about the biology. Whether plant, animal, or human, no cell can divide without the biology. I have a quote directly from Ken. I believe that one lit candle can light many without ever diminishing its own light. My goal is to light many candles. So let's meet Ken.
Hey, Shawnee, and you're one of the candles, young lady. So,
Oh,
you know, you're shining brightly and bringing a lot of people a lot of very good knowledge and understanding. And that's what our community needs is education and people willing to speak about it.
that's right. That's right. I do want to say, Ken, I have a little chair envy. You have a fantastic live streaming chair, and it makes me want to completely redo my setup.
Oh, it's I had I shot my back out several years ago, and
Hmm.
a lazy boy chair is much more comfortable
Hmm.
than an office chair. That's for sure.
Yes, yes. 100%. I see lots of people coming in to the chat. I'm going to focus on our guests instead of greeting everybody, but I see you all and I appreciate you all. I wanted to say we share the same message. However,
Mhm.
whatever, let's encourage humans to just grow.
Yes.
If you feel like you really can't grow, that's okay. I want you to connect with someone local that does, right?
Hmm.
So let's get into our first question. What's your garden story and your current grow zone so we kind of get a feel for where you're at?
Well, I'm actually in northern Alberta, so we're kind of on a. The wife knows the actual zone, but I think it's like 7A or something silly. It's fairly cold up here. We can only grow in the summer. We have, maybe 6 months of growing. And if you can put it into the chat for the actual grow zone, we actually have a little bit of a microclimate where we live. Zone 3 is what she's saying.
That's very cold, Ken.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's one of the reasons we do a lot of indoor growing. We do a lot of greenhouses up here because we have to start our plants before spring and then harden them off before we put them into our gardens. Because we have to wait for that last frost to roll through. It's great because all your cold loving plants, your brassicas, which love the cold, and you can literally grow brassicas all winter long if you're doing them right. Um, but you know, she's giving me a hard time, guys. If you don't know, Silly Lily is my loving wife of over 30 plus years, and we give each other a hard time because we both deserve it. Face it. But as I was saying, you can grow brassicas year round. Lettuce will literally freeze, and as long as it warms back up, it'll just keep going all winter, and you can harvest these plants year round in Canada or any northern climate, as long as you're getting some sun to warm up your enclosure. Then your brassicas are going to grow, and you can feed your family healthy living plants fresh out of your garden year round.
Having those season extenders on your shoulders, the things
Mm-hmm.
to get you growing quicker and longer,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. When did you start growing food, Ken?
Um, let's see. I think I was about 6 years old when I planted
Mm.
my first garden row. I was I love Popeye the Sailor Man, so I thought spinach. Oh yeah, I want to eat spinach. So my mom let me plant 100-foot row of spinach. Yes, well, to give you a little bit of backstory, when I was young, they were first coming out with the preservatives in our foods, and they found out I was allergic to the preservatives that they were putting in.
Mm.
So we couldn't buy stuff, so we had to grow all of our own. So we had like a 2-acre garden, all organic, because back then they didn't have the chemicals. This is back in the late 60s, early 70s, and so our rows were 100-foot long rows. So I put in 100-foot long row of spinach, and I found out that I hate spinach. Okay, no matter how you cook it, what you do with it, the smell, it just like, oh my god, my body goes, no, don't do it.
Oh my goodness. You learn as you grow, right, Ken?
Yes. And back then, like, we had chickens, so we were using chicken manure. It was all organic farming methodologies before organic was
Mhm.
ever a thing.
The term,
It,
yeah,
yeah, it would just grew naturally. We
yeah.
didn't, do any of these chemicals or anything like that. We didn't have pest problems that I remember growing up. You have the odd pests come in, but nothing ever serious. But then we our soil back then was alive. It had
Mhm.
everything in it that the plants needed to be healthy and strong. And if you have strong and healthy plants, you don't have pest problems.
That's right. Because the pests are looking for that scent of a stressed plant, and they
Yeah.
come in. That's
Yep.
right.
Yeah, it's amazing that their job is to break down sick plants and things that aren't
Mhm.
healthy, things that we shouldn't be eating. So they're there. It's Mother Nature's composting starting early. They're there to break those plants down, put those minerals and etc. back into the soil. So the next year, the next growth cycle, those components are there to grow a healthy plant the next year. So if you've got bugs, it's because your plants aren't very healthy, and you shouldn't really be eating them. You should be composting them and making healthier soil for the next generation.
That's right. Let's move on to our next question. The
Okay.
history of the channel. It's all about the biology, how is it germinated, and what are the type of shows you have?
Well, we'll start with where we started. I hurt myself, like I said, I blew out my back, and I was on some very severe medications. Tramadol was just one of them, but muscle relaxants, etc. And the muscle relaxants, literally, I was like a 4 or 5 year old. I couldn't focus. I could barely talk. My thoughts were just a jumble. And I knew from growing up and incidents in my past that, you know, food is a medicine. All food is a medicine. So I looked at different things that could solve the problems my body had, the pain, etc. And I found that cannabis would actually take the pain away. And I don't smoke it. I actually eat it. I make gel caps, but in the because I was eating the whole plant, the bud, etc., in one go, grinding it up. I wanted the healthiest material that I could grow myself to put into my own body. And so I started searching for information, and going through Dr. Elaine Ingham, um, the,
Mm.
the multitude of people that I listen to. Like, that's why I say listen to many voices and find the ones that resonate with you. Well, I went out and I searched, and I it took me 6 months of learning to grow cannabis before I ever planted a seed, whether that was, the
Oh.
lighting, the environment, the soil, etc.
Mhm.
So in that search, and I always love research. Like you said, I'm a citizen scientist and researcher,
Mhm.
and I love gaining information. So I took literally months upon months and ingested information, and I slowly found out over time that it literally every organic life form on our planet, plant, animal, human, etc., it all comes down to cell division. And then I looked at who controls the cell division, and I found out that it's the biology. It's the biology that supplies the building blocks for a cell, whether that's in our own gut with what we eat and our gut biology breaking it down, or in the soil and the biology in the soil breaking that down. It all came down to cell division and the biology building the cells. So that's where I came up with it's all about the biology. Started the channel with that premise of sharing that information with people, um, because all health, if you have, say, heart problems, find out what biology, what materials, and we're talking at a molecular level, like parts per billion. You might be just short on magnesium or calcium or some substance, but find out what substances that needs, whether that's a plant or yourself, supply those substances, and then supply the biology that works with that. And all of a sudden you're going to have really healthy, vibrant cells, and you can reach full genetic potential in a plant or in a human body or in an animal's body by following that basic philosophy of it's the biology that grows everything. So the more diverse your biology, the more diverse of materials you give that biology to work with, the healthier everything is going to be. Now, we have the Soil Matters on Mondays with Leighton Morrison, the designer of the Horizontal Soil System. We're mainly growing indoors. A wonderful man, a soil engineer that has taken knowledge of microscopy and the biology to whole new levels. He's our main host on Monday. I just produce that show and come on with question periods. We have Andy Lopez, the Invisible Gardener, and myself as co hosts on Wednesday on Gardens, the Untold Story. Andy has written over 20 books. He's been on radio broadcasts. He started the organic, 60 years ago as a child, you know. So he's really knowledgeable. He's an arborist in Miami, so he gets to interact with some of the stars out
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
on their properties. But and now I actually this coming Monday I'm starting a daily show, Conversations in Ken's Cafe, and we're gonna have a multitude of different guests on. And then the days I don't have guests, I'm just gonna be on sharing information and answering questions for you guys. So that's basically how it's all about the biology started, but a lot of it was for me to learn to be able to draw on people like Gerald Pollock, the fourth phase of water, um, Charlie Schultz, an aquaponics specialist. Um, there's so many different people that have all this knowledge that I now have access to by asking them, inviting them to come on to the shows and letting me learn. And it's all about that education. And guys, it's 100% free, other than, when you rewatch the shows, there's of course, commercials, because I do make a couple of dollars here and there from YouTube. And of course we have the join button now, which I've set up at a very cheap rate, $4.99 US. So or sorry, $4.99 Canadian.
Mm,
So that's only like a what, $3 US right now, and you
mhm.
guys can help support the channel.
Yeah, some of the things they talk about over there is natural farming,
Mm-hmm.
permaculture, regenerative, food forest, biodynamic, living soil, bioactive, organic, no-till, JDOM, KNF. It's fantastic over there. There is a link in the description to the channel. It's all about the biology. Hit the notify me on any of their upcoming lives. Like we said, Ken's going to be live every day. That's
Yep.
amazing.
Well, it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. The wife is looking forward to it too much, because it's that every day. But I think that the more knowledge that we're able to share and the more people that we can touch, the more lit candles we can create to talk more about this. Because all life is based on biology, and learning how you can add more biology into your environment, and healthy biology is a benefit for our entire planet.
Yeah, it's what home doesn't like, what food doesn't like, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and like I know you've done shows, showing the seeds that you're going to be planting this
Mhm,
year, etc. And it's all that sharing. It's caring, sharing, and community, and helping each other. So if you guys have small channels, anybody that watches this,
mhm.
and you're interested in coming on and having a conversation, um, just go to it's all about the biology at gmail.com. Send me an email. I'll send you out a link. Or you can talk to Shawnee, because she's going to be helping as well, with guests, etc. Because she's a wonderful person and we love her so much.
That's right. I was going to put a banner up. So let's talk about growing food in outer space. Thoughts or
Oh,
research you'd like to share with us tonight?
yeah, the space race. Like Elon Musk, he has these ambitions to go to Mars and then live on Mars. And one of the things that I think he understands, or I hope he understands, is that it all is going to be about the biology in the long term. If he wants to go to space, he's going to need to have food. He's going to need to have seeds. He's going to need to have water. He's going to need all these things. And all of these things are actually full of biology: our air, our water, our soil, our bodies, and if he doesn't understand that in order to grow healthy plants, he needs the biological component to be there, then it's going to be a real problem. Now, you can grow hydroponically, grow aquaponically,
Mhm.
and have a variety of biology. But if you're growing straight with salts, etc., you're missing a lot of the biology. You're literally, if you're growing with salts, or excessive salts, let's say, you're actually killing biology. You're knocking it back, and the plant has to reproduce that biology to bring it back into alignment. So when you're going into space, you really need to understand that you have to have this biology in your mix of nutrients that you're giving into the plants, um, because you need the biology to read the genetic of that plant to say, okay, I need to make a photosynthesis cell, or I need to make a cell that's going to create exudates or amino acids. And these are all different cells built into the plant. And each one of these cells needs different components to be put in. It's like starting a steel mill. You need specific components. Starting a factory for solar panels, you need specific components. That's the same with our plants and our own bodies. So without that understanding, it's really going to be difficult to create a biosphere
Mhm.
that's going to be self-sustaining. And they found that back when they built the original biospheres, is they didn't take into account the biological component that was necessary for things to sustain. So I really, really hope that Elon Musk, runs across this information so that he can have success, because I would love to see us living on Mars.
Are you the one that has a story about molds and fungus in a petri dish in the International Space Station?
Yes,
Can you
actually,
tell that story?
sure, they and you guys can look it up. But what they did is they took a smear, I guess would be the best way to put it, and they literally did a spacewalk, and they put a smear of biology on the outside of the window, so in outer space. And what happened was the outside layer died and made a crust or a film across the top. Yet the inside biology did what's called a cyst. They basically went to sleep or hibernation when they went back out. I can't remember how many months it was, but it was a while later. They went, took a scraping of that off, brought it back into the International Space Station, and brought it back up to temperature, and the biology came back to life. So it's really hard to kill biology. They found in core samples of rock that's hundreds of thousands of years old, where it was on the surface of our planet, that they found biology, the same biology that exists on the surface of our planet, that has a lifespan of a few days, in the rock sample, has a lifespan in millennia. Okay. So the exact same biology, but a different environment, a whole different life cycle. So if you think that there's no biology in the hottest lava in our planet, you're wrong.
Oh, the
Okay.
lava.
Biology lives everywhere. It's different
Oh,
types of biology, but it's there. It's the foundation of life on our planet. Without it, we can't have cell division. Without cell division, well, I don't have gray hair. I'm just I'm just non-existent anymore.
now I want to go down the rabbit hole of biology studies in lava because that's fascinating.
Well, you think of the harshest
Oh,
environments on our planet, the
yeah.
Mariana Trench, they've actually sent um, drones down there to look around the lava cones, and they found animals living there with the biology that lives there, and they don't exist anywhere else, but it's the foundation of life. You consider our planet hundreds of millions of years ago was just, lava fields pretty much
Mhm,
everywhere,
mhm.
and there was life there.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
the
it's amazing how Mother Nature has put this all together. And without the steps, guys, of the primordial soup, and all of that, and the generally one single celled organism creating two cells together, then three cells together, then 20 cells and 1,000 cells, and all of a sudden you had life coming out of the primordial soup onto the land. Well, without the availability of the cell division and the biology to put those together, we wouldn't have animals. We'd still have single celled organisms.
right. I see one question here, Ken. How do the drones survive the heat?
Because the heat obviously is rising at the vent. So when they put the drones down, they're going underneath. Okay. So the heat's rising up, the drone's down here, and then they can do samples around the cone. and then they can just send a probe into the hot liquid that's coming out because it's basically boiling water, and they have probes that'll survive that. So that's basically how they do that.
We have another comment that I wanted to just speak about. Mother Earth Garden Club, hello to you. They found microbes of some sort living inside salt on a very, very dry desert, a hot, very
Hmm.
dry desert.
Yep.
The interesting things that I read about, because I've been fascinated with growing in space just because I want to know what's going on. And
Hmm.
in my research, I found out that 40 years of controlled environment agriculture has been going on. That shocked me. The biomass production chamber was in use from 1987 to 2000. They were doing vertical farming to grow hydroponic potatoes before they released it to the public citizens.
Hmm.
Lunar soil tests. They can grow plants in lunar soil,
Yep.
supposedly. We have the United States has a great partnership with Canadian Space Agency to grow crops on the moon, and next is Mars. The methods they're using is something called a veggie chamber box, and I can pull up a picture here. LED lights, fan, controlled environment. You
Yep.
know, it's really hard to do the soil, but they have soil options, and then your hydroponics. And like, if you think about the challenges of space, first of all, getting it there, the
Hmm.
G forces that seed goes through, if it's a seed they're bringing or an actual plant, the change in the cells that happens because it's reading everything constantly, right?
Hmm.
Microgravity, using the light for the orientation. The water has a high surface tension, so it's clinging to roots and they can't breathe. So, like, finding ways around that to keep
Hmm.
everything going. They actually have what's called a plant pillow, and that's how they get the seeds to sprout. So it's a black box that usually has a little
Hmm.
bit of soil and water with a wick, and then the seed is in a wrapper to keep it from floating around, and they germinate it in that pillow.
Okay.
You know, what is the purpose to all this, you guys? Well, it's therapeutic for those astronauts, I tell you that, to be out
Hmm.
there and taking care of a plant and to be able to eat that plant, right? And it helps with fatigue for sure. So, like, what are they growing? Do you have a list of crops you know?
No, I don't know what they would want to grow other than if, well, you said potatoes, a root vegetable. I think a lot of it for myself, it wouldn't just be food that I would be interested in growing in space. It would be a lot of the medicinal herbs, or what most people would call weeds. Um, but those medicinal herbs would be very beneficial. And you think of the human being and our sensory perception. When we smell a flower and we get that sensory through our nose, we go, "Oh, that's so nice." I think that is a lot of the you were talking about the psychological aspect of
Mhm.
growing. There's a lot of that where you can look at that plant and go, "My hands grew this. I put my love into this, and I'm getting love back from this." And that's a lot of the things with growing in any way, shape, or form. You're putting love in, and your plant's going to give you love back. It's a lot of people are talking now more and more about putting your seeds in your mouth and letting them soak in your saliva
Yes, yes.
because it imparts your genetics in the moisture that you're putting onto the seed. And the seed, literally, the biology will read your genetics, and it can identify things that are missing for you specifically, and it helped to impart that into the plant. As crazy as that sounds, this is science that they're showing now. It's just like plants have more sensory inputs than we do. I think they're at 13 inputs where we've got what, the
Mhm,
five?
mhm.
They actually see the color of clothing you're wearing when you go into the garden. It's so impressive what science is able to discover now
Right.
that they're actually researching this. It's amazing. The future is bright in so many different ways.
Does anybody here lick their seeds? I wanna put a 1 in the chat if you're a seed licker before you plant it. Or maybe you wanna try it now. Put a 2 if you
Yep.
wanna try it. The crops list that I'm seeing with the NASA and the ISS is pak choi, your leafy greens, lettuce. Obviously, those grow without the need of any kind of pollination. They can be nutrient dense, and they're
Mhm,
usually a cut and come again, and they're quick growing, right? 60 days.
mhm,
Peppers and tomatoes they've been experimenting with. They are trying to do more plants for teas. So, for example,
mhm.
I'm going to show a couple pictures once I get through my page here of like chamomile. Wouldn't that be
Yep.
great to have chamomile tea? And like you mentioned on the hat of medicinal, we
Mhm.
should have the whole box. We should have a whole box dedicated to that kind of plant category,
Yes.
right?
Well, you think that there's only going to be so much medication that they're going to be able to bring with them, the chemical medications, and you can bring a million seeds for the same weight as one bottle of, say, penicillin,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can grow all the things you need to do the same job as those medications in living plants, and that's a better use of space and weight to bring it as a seed stock than to bring a medicine that's going to just run out and then it's gone forever, where
Yeah.
you can just keep growing more seeds because you save your seeds. Those seeds are not only good for you because you can eat them, you can grind them into flour depending on the seeds,
Mm.
but you can replant and replant and replant and grow and expand your own garden. And that's something that really need for growing in space and
Mhm.
on new planets, is being able to reproduce more seeds. And guys, I don't know if you guys talk much about terroir or your growing environment, but the seeds can actually adjust to growing environments. So say you have a seed that comes from say Hawaii, and so it's always warm there. It's always getting, 12 hours of sun, 12 hours of dark. And you bring that seed up to, say, my zone, and you plant it and you let it grow out. The seed that that plant is going to produce in the new environment is going to change genetically through the environment of its growth cycle. And over a few seasons of replanting that, it's going to slowly adjust to the environment I have in Canada from the Hawaii, to be able to grow here healthy and strong each season.
Yeah, it's about that adaptive
Mhm,
agriculture of it understands its microclimate there
mhm.
and it changes every year to have more success, right?
Yep. And that's like I know that a lot of people are on your channel are into beekeeping.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that when you're buying queens, where are those queens coming from? What was their environment, and are they going to survive the winter in your environment?
Oh.
Because they're not coded genetically for your environment. Say they're coming from Spain, they don't have winter there like we do
Right.
here. So that's where when I talk about beekeeping, I talk about capturing your native bees,
Mhm.
okay? Because those are bees that are living in your environment, your area, your temperatures, your cycles. If your dearth, and a dearth is a time when there's no pollen to connect, the bees in your area are used to that already. Where if you bring in bees from, say Florida, bringing them to Canada, the dearth is totally different, or the time of no food for them is totally different. Yet the
Mhm.
queen is still producing, thinking that there's going to be this abundance of food instead of slowing down. So that's where, if you can get things from your environment, you're always better off, whether that's plants or animals, um, it's always better to have things that are focused on living in your environment than to buy a seed from Hawaii when you live in Antarctica. Okay, it's just not going to work very well.
Yes, right? The the astronauts have actually been requesting more spicy foods because, as you imagine, the food they bring is pretty bland. Just like if you're on a camping trip for 12 days in the boundary waters, for example, like you kind of
Hmm.
want something with more flavor after a while.
They don't want to eat toothpaste
The,
anymore.
the toothpaste, the texture, can you imagine? Yeah. And it's like the ISS is apparently retiring in 2030. And
Yep.
so Gateway is the new station. Is that correct? Do you know?
I think that was one of them. I know there's a lot of different companies with a lot of different
Oh,
designs.
okay.
There's so much technology, and a lot of it is not what you know, it's who you know, in the
Mm,
governments to get funding for this stuff.
right.
That's where Elon Musk, he broke the mold on doing it all himself, and he did a lot of the work before he ever got government funding because had to do proof of concepts. But there's a lot of groups out there. There's one where um, I don't know if you remember the Pez dispensers,
Oh, yeah,
kind of
of
like what
course.
Elon Musk has for his satellites.
Mhm.
Well, this company has designed modules that they send them up as flat, and it builds its own space station out of different modules, and they've actually got it designed where eventually they'll be able to go mine asteroids to make the components to build these modules in space. But they're going from one or two modules put together for a small space station to 20 or 30 put together for a large space station, hotels, tourist stuff up in the low earth orbit. There's so much, and so many people with so many brilliant ideas for how we can move forward with spaces. Like I said, our future, if we survive, our
To see
future,
it?
it's
Yeah.
bright, baby.
The things they're doing just in, like, Florida, in
Mm,
the whatever that place is called. There's, like, a lab there. The plant health monitoring chambers that they
mhm,
use with the USDA and the Army that stress out the plants, like, let's say they're gonna overwater them.
mhm,
They actually are looking with, like, some kinda infrared camera to know what happens before the plant triggers, "Hey, we're under stress." So then when we're in the environment up there, that we can sense it coming and do something so we don't lose the crop, essentially. And it's
mhm.
like these huge there's a whole hallway of all these different chambers of tests they're doing on plants, right?
Well, it's
Yeah.
amazing how the government agencies can afford to do all this testing, yet they can't afford to test our crops that we're buying, at their local grocery store. Because coming from the cannabis side of things, it's the most researched plant in the world now. It has the most stringent regulations for being able to sell it, whether that's heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, etc. Any of our crops that are out there that are mainstream, if we tested them like we test the cannabis plant, there would be nothing on our shelves.
What?
Yeah, it's that bad. Okay.
Wow.
It's astronomically mind blowing how bad our foods that we buy on a regular basis actually are for heavy metals and chemicals, etc., that we're not supposed to be consuming, but yet
Yeah.
we consume them daily. And then they force companies to put in these preservatives and additives and
Mhm.
this and this, and it's literally destroying the biology in our bodies, which is our health and
Yeah.
wellness.
Right.
Okay, it's designed, it's city water. You're
Oh,
drinking chlorine and chloramine. What are those things designed to do? Oh, kill biology.
till, yep.
What do your body need in your gut to break down your food to make you healthy? Oh, yeah, right, biology. But you're killing it with every glass of water you drink.
Something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I need to address this. Radio Jonesy is speaking about a movie where you grow potatoes on Mars and tents over human waste. I watched an interview where they asked a horticulturist in NASA about this specific sentence here,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, I really don't recommend it because the amount of time it takes to break it down to not have a risk of E. coli with people in space, we don't want to take that risk. So movies are great, but I do not advise that to anybody
Well,
with
I
a
would
short
actually,
time
if you
span.
you want to understand about human uh, feces being used. It's called humanure, and there's books on it. It is actually, if we weren't taking the chemicals and pharmaceuticals, etc., our manure is actually the best fertilizer on the planet once it is broken down. And that's the key,
Yeah.
is having it broken down. It's having it go through the compost cycle and having the biology break it down. Now, if for you guys that don't know, glyphosate or Roundup is one of those forever chemicals, yet there's biology out there that literally takes that molecule of glyphosate, breaks it apart into its component parts. So then it's no longer the glyphosate, and it's broken down and it's then used as nutrition for the biology and for the plants. And this is something that is necessary. It's that composting process of the biology breaking those molecules apart. And there's biology out there that eats plastic. Okay. But it takes time and it has to develop. Okay. So if you want faster development of that kind of biology, then you need to find that specific biology and use like a compost tea brewer where you can replicate that biology and then spray it on your field, say like for the glyphosate, and eliminate glyphosate from your field in a season.
Yeah, soil remediation is a skill that you should practice and work
Mm-hmm.
through with making these types of things, right?
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
that's one of the things that Leighton Morrison on the Soil Matters talks about. And he's actually doing projects in California after the fires, but he's been doing remediation around the U.S. for
yeah.
over a decade. He's actually this Monday, he's doing a special talking about his life and his journey
Yeah.
this Monday. So in 3 days' time, talking about how he came to be the guy that he is, doing these multi-million-dollar projects, and having the knowledge and understanding. So that's going to be an amazing show on Monday.
Yes, there's going to be so much unlocked for you to listen to over there, right?
Yep.
The NASA people are using 3D printers to make trellises for their plants, and they do have a program for any educators growing beyond Earth. The students in the classrooms are given a chamber to grow plants and make suggestions for them to try in space. Um,
Cool.
I feel like I should move on. I could talk more about space, but I feel like I have to move on. So, would you like to speak about any health journey stories and about worm castings or biochar, how and why, with the caveat that you should always talk about things with your doctor and your health, and we are not
Yes.
professionals.
I,
Yes.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving any medical advice. Um, Worm castings. We'll start. Actually, we'll start with biochar, because
Okay.
a lot of people understand that if you ingest a poison, that you take charcoal to bind to that poison so you don't get sick. That's or it used to be when I was growing up anyway, that everybody had charcoal pills in their medicine cabinet. So charcoal binds to those types of things and it's great for your body if you have poisons or toxins to be able to draw that out. Now, the worm castings, I make my own worm castings, and so I know what's going into them. But my wife, and I'll use her as an example, when she was drinking coffee, her stomach would get upset on a regular basis. And I said, well, honey, just here, take some worm castings. And I put them in a gel cap, dried them out, put them in a gel cap. She took one pill. So she repopulated the biology because worm castings are full of biology. She
Mhm.
repopulated the biology in her stomach, and bang, no more problems with the coffee. So we talk about biology, being so important, and your gut biology for your health is the most important thing. You can, you know, kids go out and they eat dirt
Mhm.
growing up. They're
Mhm.
literally getting biology into their stomachs that wasn't there before. And I don't, Little Rascals. Then we're going back. When I was a kid, it was a program on TV,
Mhm.
and they had a show on eating worms, and it was a challenge for the boys to who's going to eat a worm. But those worms are so full of biology, was actually healthy for them to eat those worms. Now, I'm not telling people to go out, dig up some worms and eat your worms. But if you can have worm castings and produce your own worm castings, you can literally, ingest that biology and help to stabilize your own gut biology. And to give you an example is Crohn's disease. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, it's a horrible disease. A lot of people have this problem, and Leighton Morrison has actually talked about this, where he was making what's called medical grade compost. So, that's stringent on what was there and etc. And literally by ingesting this, they could actually reverse Crohn's disease in basically one application, because it was reintroducing the necessarily biology coming from the compost, so coming from nature, back into the person's guts and into their intestines and into the tract to solve that problem. That's how important biology is in our bodies. So I know several people that you know uh, work with compost and healthy
Mhm.
compost, healthy worm castings that get covered in this stuff at work all the time. They never get sick because that biology, when it lands on their skin, is penetrating into their skin, going into their bodies. Their bodies are very, very healthy. I know Alexa from Camp Compost, Organic Alexa on Instagram. She literally makes shampoo out of compost. I know people that they make good compost and they make liquids and drink that, okay, to maintain their health. It's the biology that's there. It's the nutrients that biology has broken out of the substrate used, whether that's leaf material, whatever you're putting in your compost.
Mhm.
Those are actually building blocks being broken down, consumed by the biology, and you're getting the biology as well that broke that down, which helps you to use it in the next generation of cells. So you mentioned, I talked about Korean natural farming, and I'll give you a quick example. Is water soluble calcium. Okay, made from eggshells. You cook your eggshells to a golden brown. You put 1 part eggshell to 10 part um, live vinegar. So
Mhm.
a vinegar with a mother, so apple cider vinegar, rice vinegar, and you let that cook. The biology in that mother culture literally helps to break down the calcium out of the eggshells and puts it into the liquid, and you can use that liquid for growing plants. Well, you can also consume that liquid because it's just eggshells. And I use apple cider vinegar.
Hmm.
So and apple cider vinegar is actually very good for you.
Hmm.
For those that don't know, it's one of those things for fermenting. Fermented foods are that much better because the biology has broken it down. But with the water soluble calcium, the biology that stripped the calcium out of that eggshell is the same biology that can turn around and use it to help build cells, healthy cells in your body that relate to calcium. So you're taking the construction, or the person that does the construction and the person that breaks that down. It's the same person. They're just putting on a different hat
Yeah.
and going to a different job. So that's just one of the ways that we can really, double end things,
Right.
and have the workforce and everything as one. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I need water.
I'm just gonna repeat the liquid calcium conversation.
Okay.
Crush your eggshells, and in a skillet, you can char them or toast them. Crunch them a little, but we don't want a powder in this situation. When we're toasting them brown, not black, you're removing this kind of film coating that's on them that would stop
Hmm.
the reaction that we're trying to look for next. You can do apple cider vinegar, brown rice vinegar, distilled white vinegar, one
Hmm.
part, 1 cup, for example, 1 part eggshell to 10 parts, 10 cups of your vinegar. You're
Hmm.
creating that in a jar and it's going to bubble up. There's going to be a chemical reaction of the eggshells going from the bottom to the top of the line of vinegar and back down. You're going to cover it with a breathable fabric. We don't want gnats in our beautiful things we're creating. 5 to 10 days, we're going to wait till those bubbles stop. When the bubbles
Hmm.
have stopped, we know our reaction is complete. So then you're going to filter or strain like a coffee
Now,
filter
I'll,
because we
I'll
want those
pause you there
particles.
for half a
Yeah,
second,
go
young
ahead.
lady.
Yeah.
When you think you're done, take a
Wait.
little bit of fresh eggshells that are the cooked eggshells, throw that
Mhm.
into the batch. If it starts to bubble again, there's still space in your mix for calcium. So you
Okay.
want to add a little bit more eggshell and let it sit again and then test. But that's the test to make sure that you have the liquid full of the calcium. Because if it doesn't bubble when you put fresh in, it means there's no available
It's full.
spaces
Yeah.
for more calcium. So
I love
when
that tip to test it. So after you've strained it through a coffee filter to get the particles away from the liquid, it is now shelf stable and you can dilute it to use. So 1 teaspoon to a gallon of water, and it is a fantastic foliar feed or soil
Mhm.
drench. And apparently you can ingest it,
Yep.
as you heard here.
Well, if you have problems with your teeth, they're lacking in calcium. Guess what? Take an ounce of that every day, and all of a sudden, your teeth might start showing signs of healing. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody. Oh, there is an entire wedge in life about energy in the garden and that connection
Mhm.
between the gardener and the garden and the energy of life in the garden. So, what can you tell us about that?
Oh, energy, frequency, vibration, guys.
Yes.
Light. Okay, we'll start with light. It's
Okay.
energy. It is a waveform, and it is a vibration. Everything around us has the same energy, frequency, and vibration. It's called the Schumann resonance. It's the resonant frequency of our planet and the universe. It is necessary for that energy to be in our bodies. That's where people ground. They go out in bare feet and lay on the ground. They walk around in bare feet. It's a resonant frequency that comes into your body. That's where people, do sun gazing in the morning and in the evening. When you can look at the sun without damaging your eyes, you
Mm-hmm.
get an excess of this frequency, and a lot of it is in the infrareds. Okay, it is so beneficial for our health. That's where a lot of people sleep on copper mats under their mattresses and ground those so that they're in line with the frequency of our planet. Now, if you're looking at growing, you can actually just this past Monday, uh, Quatamoc Villa was on, and he was talking about using biochar, coating it in ceramic, and putting it into his garden, literally running copper rods in to draw that energy. Now, if you guys don't understand, there's so much energy in our atmosphere. People have literally put rods up, I think it's 150 meters, and literally drawn energy out of the atmosphere and took that energy and put it into diodes and capacitors that they can literally, use that energy to charge batteries and to run factories. There's so much energy. We can tap into that in our own, daily events of what we're doing. And that energy in our garden, they call it now redox potential, which is the positive and negative energy that flows through the plants and the soil. And you need that energy to help break down or break, chemicals out of, say, sand, silt, clay, and organic material.
Mhm.
Okay, but you need that energy source, and we can get that from our sunlight, we can get that from our environment, and amazingly enough, we can produce it ourselves. And if you've never heard of a what's called quantum touch, it's literally hands-on healing. And basically it's as simple as raising your energy by using your breath and increasing your breath to a higher level, which raises your energy. And then you touch somebody else, their cells want to match your energy, they want to match the higher energy level. And you can literally help to heal people using this. You can use it in your garden for your plants. That's where people that love their plants go into their gardens with that positive mental energy. Their gardens do much better and are healthier than people that go into their garden. I don't want to be here
Right.
pulling these damn weeds. I
Mhm.
hate doing this. Well, guess what? You're putting negative energy, and you don't want that. You want
Right.
positive energy.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It's what I wanted you to speak about. Yes, definitely. We might have said some of this already, but let's repeat if there's something new that we can fill in here. Tell us about the beginning methods for building soil, including a homemade fertilizer recipe, because I know you have one. That whole circle of life in this soil is what I want to touch on now.
Okay, so let's take it right from the basic starting of the your gardening. Now,
Mhm.
you could be in Vegas, and actually I've got a guy on Monday from Vegas who grows in just outside of Vegas, an organic grower, so you might want to check him out on Monday. But it all is different structures of soil. You have sand, silt, clay. Okay, those are your base components globally. Okay, and you need to combine those to start growing. So say it's somebody in Montana, they've got a field and they want to start a garden.
Mhm.
So what they're going to do, they're going to go out, they're going to work up that soil. They're going to, whatever was there with it, if say it's grass, you want to take that grass out. Now you don't want to get rid of that because that's organic material. Okay. But you want to remove those roots so that you can, you know change that. So, and it's a matter of changing whatever you've got into what's called we call living soil. So you need a combination of sand, silt, clay, and organic material to supply the living environment that the biology needs. Because remember, nothing grows without biology, because it's biology that makes the cells. So you want to have that basic environment. It's just like building yourself a house and having electrical in it and having plumbing in it. You need those basics if you want to have a comfortable life anyway, not be running out to the odd house.
Yes.
Okay. You want to have indoor plumbing. You need to have those. You need those components there already. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove what's there. And then I'm really more into the no-till, but only once you have the environment built.
Hmm.
Until you have that built, you need to break that soil structure up so that you can put the life in. And so if you are starting fresh, there's multitude of methods. You have the lasagna where you don't do anything with the soil, put down cardboard and layer of stuff and organic material and that cardboard kills what's underneath or stops the light so the grass can't grow anymore. You can work it up, etc. But to build up your soil, you need the sand silt clay. But the biggest one, guys, is the organic material. So
Hmm.
whether you're using wood chips, whether you're using straw, whether you're using grass or just ripping weeds out from the neighbor's house, throwing it down as a green mulch, you need that because it's plants feeding plants. So when a plant grows, the biology that builds it is looking at the plant's genetic makeup, potential, however you want to call it. And it's drawing those building blocks to build plants. So if you use that plant and you break that down in a compost and then you put that on the soil, you're supplying an environment for more biology to live. Okay. And so you're building apartment buildings all over your garden. Okay, and it's supplying the building blocks or the material, the 2x4s and 4x4s, etc., to build those apartments. So organic material is huge, absolutely huge. Now, a lot of our farms across the world are lacking in organic material. They think that 2% is, oh my God, you got 2% organic material. You're doing great. Well, try having farms that have 10 plus percent. They're out there in abundance. Okay. So the more organic material you put into your soil structure, as long as it's already been digested by the biology, if you're putting it into the soil, if you're putting it on top, you just put wood chips on top. I took 5 inches of wood chips, put
Hmm.
it on top of my garden. 5 years later, you can't find a wood chip anymore. It's
Right.
been broken down. So it's supplied all these building blocks, but it's supplied all these apartment blocks for the biology to live and exist and be safe. Because face it, guys, if your biology and you're in an aggregate, so a clump of dirt on your roots is stuck together, we all love aggregation, and you're a worm, well, you're going right through that aggregation. But if you're living in a hunk of biochar, say, the worm comes and goes, hey man, I can't eat this. Okay, well, I'll go around and eat this biology.
Hmm.
So it's a protective measure. So, and I wanted to jump back to the biochar for a second because it's extremely important to understand that biochar is char, but it's only char until you add the biology. So if you're buying charcoal, okay, that's all it is. It's
Hmm.
not biochar. And sorry guys, I
There's a
my cat just showed up. Okay.
yeah, we need to activate it. The
Yes.
biochar.
Yes. If it's not activated, it's going to literally suck the life out of your garden that first year. It's just like mixing wood chips into the dirt, okay, is
Hmm.
going to suck the life out of your soil that first year, because that the wood needs to have the biology get in there to start breaking it down, and it's going to focus on that and not on connecting with the plants to help the plants go. So, it's really simple. You can buy a ton of biochar. You can buy a ton of compost, mix them together and water them, keep them at a 70% moisture content, flip them for 30 days. And all of a sudden, you're going to have activated biochar. You're going to have activated compost. And so you can buy the cheapest compost you want. It's going to be garbage, but you can take that garbage and create amazing compost by doing things like adding biochar to it, adding different sprays to it, like the calcium spray, a
Mhm.
phosphorus spray, adding the biology, taking handfuls of worm castings and throwing it in. It's going to just add that biology, and it's all about the more biology, the better off you are. Because the one thing that I want to emphasize is keeping a biodiverse attitude. The more, the better. If there's something there that is overpopulated on one side, they say there's too much protozoa. Well, the predators of the protozoa are going to populate that much more to eat the protozoa, and it's going to be fitting into the system. So, our foliar sprays, you're putting all these building blocks, you're adding all this biology onto the leaf structure. Well, the ones that aren't needed there are going to become a food source for the ones that are there. The ones that are needed there are just going to slip into the matrix and go, hey, I got a perfect place to live here. So how do you activate the biochar? As I said, you can put it, the best way I understand is to put it into your compost. Now,
Mhm.
this is controversial, but you can throw it out and pee on it. Okay. That's a way to start the activation of the biology that is going to build and grow. Now, most people think of that and go, oh my God, I'm peeing on it. So put it in your compost. Okay. That's the easiest way to do it. Leave it for at least 30 days. Um, if you have the availability of a tumbler or you're going to be flipping it, you want to keep the moisture content at around 70%. That's the perfect environment for biology to grow and proliferate. Now, if you don't want to go and buy a moisture meter, grab a handful, squeeze it. If you got a few drops coming out, that's right around 70%, and you're good. Okay. So you don't need to have the expensive meter to have a basic understanding. And if you're doing seed starting, start
Mhm.
your seeds in 70% moisture. It needs that to really, grasp, hold, and grow.
So I do know a little bit about what Diva in the Dirt has on hand, and she does have a
Okay.
barrel of J-Dom liquid
Oh,
fertilizer on
cool.
hand.
Yep.
So if she were to take a 5-gallon bucket, put biochar in it, cover the surface of the biochar with her liquid, how long should she let that sit
Um,
to charge
always
it?
give it, always give it 30 days.
30 days,
Oh,
Diva.
yeah, always give everything 30 days to really take it to the next level when we're talking compost, etc. Now, if you're doing a compost tea, you're not going to be brewing it for 30 days. 13 hours or 30 hours, is more than enough for most things. But if you're charging your char, give it that 30 days. Allow it to fill up with life as much as possible. And as I said, the Monday show, it's a new part of biochar. It's just the first time I heard about it was this Monday. Was coating the biochar when you're after you've made your biochar, when you go to quench the fire, using the ceramic to coat the biochar with basically minerals that are
Okay.
charged that'll grab that charge. We're talking about energy,
Huh.
and it grabs that energy, coats the outside of the biochar, and it's that much better. So check out that video. I know I've got more people coming up, and I'm going to have Mr. Villa back on again, talk more about that, because I'm learning every time he comes on and talks about this, because I didn't research this stuff, but he has, and for 20 years. So yeah, the information fantastic. So
I'm going to do two things quick. I'm going
okay.
to talk about tea and extract, and then there's a conversation about using biochar under your beehive. So remind me that's what's coming next. So for those in the chat and in the replay, we're saying compost tea, and I want you to talk about compost extract as well. But the difference I want to make clear here is the tea is you're actually breeding and multiplying microorganisms. There's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more of a process, where the extract is you're just taking out what's already in your compost to put in a liquid. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you want to talk about making compost extract, we can do that and then do the bee question.
Sure. So understand that in your compost you have humic and fulvic acid. Okay, and those are two of the building blocks that are really great on the acid side for things to be broken down, and it's necessary for the construction of amino acids, etc. So to do an extract, you can take your compost, take a lady's pantyhose, just knee high ones. You don't have to have the full ones, okay? Um, and stuff it 2 or 3 handfuls in there. Then take a 5 gallon bucket of lukewarm water, okay, and good water, not city water, because you're killing the biology if you're using city water. Okay, stick it in there and milk it like you would a cow. So I don't know if you've ever milked a cow, but you start with your thumb like this, and you slowly work your hand, and you work down and squeeze, and you just keep squeezing it, keep moving the water through it. And basically, what you're doing is you're stripping the biology off of the substrate. So the compost, I do it with worm castings as well. But you just want to mix that up, for 5 or 10 minutes, however long your hands can hold out for. But you're just stripping the biology off. Now you have a concentrated liquid form of biology. You're not feeding it, so you're not putting molasses in it and etc. You're just grabbing the biology itself. Then you take that extract. So say you have you made your 5 gallons. That 5 gallons can make 500 gallons. Okay, when you multiply that, and at that point, if you want to feed it and let it brew for 15-20 minutes, because remember guys, biology grows at a rate that is incomprehensible to us when we until we really think about it. But some biology lives, hours, minutes, okay, is
Mhm.
their entire life cycle, especially bacteria, so it doesn't have to brew for very long. You can put it in your tank, that your sprayer, and run your pumping system to just let it flow and mix. Add in a little bit of molasses, you're going to have a blooming of biology. Then go and spread it right away. Okay, don't let it sit
Oh,
there in the sun
mhm.
for a day or an hour or 6 hours. Go out, spray it right away, and get that biology out. And it's as simple as stripping that biology off of that substrate. And this is how Leighton talks about, getting um, the glyphosate is taking the substrate or the dirt from the plants at the edge of a field that's been glyphosated for decades,
Right.
taking the biology that lives there in those healthy weeds at the edge, taking that, taking the biology off those plants. That's the biology that lives in and breaks down glyphosate, making a huge batch, spraying your field, and all of a sudden you have no glyphosate. It's the same with everything like that. You can do so much by doing so little. Like you're making the Jadam liquid solution, you're making a concentrate, and then you can take that and create a large volume of liquid to spray out for your plants.
Yeah, there's there's so many things I want to add to this. The fact that just in 20 minutes, everything doubles every 20 minutes. Everything in
Mhm.
there has doubled or died, and that also feeds. We like the dead bodies. They work for us, right? And when you're doing these JDOM fertilizers, adding your calcium, adding your labs, adding like we have all these different things we can make with stuff we already own. It's just understanding kind of the science of it, the timing, the process, what's good, what's bad. How do you know you went too long? Like you said,
Mhm.
don't let it sit. Don't let everything die. Apply it then. Use it as a foliar feed. Use it as a soil drench. If you don't want to
Mhm.
use pantyhose, if that weirds you out, use a paint strainer bag and tie it up,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Well,
Here,
and there's so much that we can do, and there's so many people online. That's why I tell people listen to many voices, because there's so many people doing it in so many different ways. Find the ones that work for you and your environment. If you're a
yes,
gardener, a home gardener, and you have an acre garden, or you have a just a flower pot garden for herbs in your apartment, you can do this stuff and just change the volumes for what you're going to be doing. And the more you participate in growing, the happier and healthier you can be. We were talking about the space station and smelling the
yes,
roses.
yes.
Okay. It's all beneficial to you to do this. Is like, is however you grow, whatever you grow, just grow. And that's both energetically, mentally, physically, growing plants, animals, whatever it is, as long as you're moving forward and you keep a positive mental attitude and portray that to other people, smile at other people, it
Mhm.
brings joy to everyone's heart, even when that person, and all you do is smile and walk away. It actually does have an effect on them, but it has a better effect on you because you just kept yourself positive, and that's better for all of our planet. So some beekeepers will treat the soil under and around their hives with biochar. That's actually a new one for me on the biochar. I do know that if you have hive beetles, the hive beetle, when it matures, its young in the pupae state, has to leave the hive, go into the ground, to mature to fly back up into the hive. And I know that if you have an abundance of nematodes in the soil, the nematodes actually eat the pupa and then you get rid of your hive beetles. So I'm sure that biochar is going to help to proliferate the life forms in the soil in that area, which is going to move up into the nematode area to help in that. So I'm thinking that that would probably be the main reason to use the biochar, is to have the biology and the higher life forms of biology like nematodes in the area to eat that pupa.
So for the people in the chat here and in the replay, if you have a question, get it out now because we're hitting towards the end. So while we're gathering the questions, if there's any, in your garden, is there any new to you crops on the grow list this season?
Um, More flowers.
Same
We
here.
Yeah, we don't grow so much vegetables, etc. Because I'm more leaning towards the carnivore diet
Oh, okay.
perspective. Well, I'm not made of green. I don't have chlorophyll in my cells,
Yeah.
so you know, I made a red meat, so I eat a lot more red meat than we do vegetables and stuff like that. So I really want to promote more flowers for the pollinators, whether that's mason bees, honeybees, bumblebees, moths. Um, that also allows more birds to come into my environment, more different predatory insects to be in my environment. Um, it's biodiversity, everybody. You look at Yellowstone National Park, they took the wolves out, and all of a sudden they started having more and more problems with other things. They had to literally bring wolves back in to stabilize the balance, because Mother Nature loves balance, okay? And that's where I talked about biodiversity in both the biology and in the building blocks, but in the environment, in the life forms that you promote in your environment. The more life forms, the more birds that you have, the more insects that you have. It's all Mother Nature coming back into balance to be healthy and vibrant. So the more you can promote a balanced environment. So if you're into birds and you want to put up 5 birdhouses, great. Don't put up 50, because then all of a sudden you're going to throw things out of balance. You're going to have too many of that bird, or have different sizes of birdhouses for different varieties of birds. Have a house for mason bees, as well as if you have the ability to have the honeybees. Remember that honeybees don't pollinate tomatoes, bumblebees do.
Hmm.
The honeybee is not large enough to vibrate the tomato to pollinate, where the bumblebee is large enough to do that job. Okay, so the more environmental components that you and we as human beings can add in. Okay, so having an area where you just have uh, weeds, or have wildflowers, or whatever you want to put in that specific area to create more biodiversity in everything, in the plants, the animals, etc., the better off you're going to be and your garden is going to be.
I agree. We had a couple people in the chat earlier kind of going over the cover crop conversation, and something I
Mm-hmm.
learned from someone that I'd like to hear more from, John Kempf, talked
Mm-hmm.
about having at least 5 plant families in your cover crop blend, a root, a legume, a green, and understanding when you plant that cover crop, what's your termination plan? Because it could turn into a weed, essentially, if you don't have that thought process figured out. But then he taught me about the rhizophagy of the root and the tip sending out a signal and receiving a signal in, and
Mm-hmm.
telling it around it, the soil food web, hey, I'm low on this, or I have too much of this, and they go, oh, okay, I'm going to adjust the soil for you if we have the home and the food for everything to live compatibly. So now this plant has a healthy immune system. So then when that animal or human consumes it, we have a healthy gut microbiome,
Yep.
right?
Well, and that's the thing. It's that biodiversity, and one of the studies that I saw from a university in the states, their study was basically doing row crops, and they would plant a particular variety in this row. The next year, they would plant a different variety in the same row, and then a third and a fourth. They had a flood, and they found that the rows that had 3 or 4 different varieties over those years survived, because they had a variety of natural biology from the plants,
Yes.
and the ones that didn't survive. So the more biodiverse, and like you had actually suggested a fertilizer. Well, guys, if you've ever done seed starts, or oh geez, what's it called? Uh,
Sprouts, microgreens, what do we?
sprouts,
Okay.
sprouts. That's it. If you've ever done sprouts,
Oh, the
if
water.
you do sprouts, you take that water. It's full of the biology designed for that particular plant. So if
Hmm.
you're doing wheat, or you're doing barley or alfalfa, it's different biology put into those seeds by the mother plant. Okay, you take that water, that's your concentrate, that's your extract. You take that, you put it into, say you got a gallon jar, you put that into a 100-gallon jug, you spray that, you're spraying that natural biology into your soil structure. And the other thing, guys, is never leave bare soil. I know we're getting close to the end, but never leave bare soil. Mother Nature hates it. She will put in plants in there, and we generally call them weeds. I like to call them medicinal plants for the soil, because Mother Nature has made those seeds sprout specifically to heal the soil that's there. So any of your weeds you're seeing, collect those, put them into a nutrient solution, compost them, make a it's not a jam s, it's the other one. But anyway, put it in a barrel of water, let it sit there
Mhm.
and ferment for a couple of months. That's what the soil, what Mother Nature has said is missing in your soil. Use that on your soil, and then likelihood is those weeds or medicinal plants for the soil aren't going to be coming back again the next year because the components necessary are going to be there. Mother Nature is looking at the what's in the soil, what's missing from the soil. There's seeds in your soil that have been there for thousands, if not tens or
Yeah,
hundreds of thousands of years, that will not sprout until specific conditions are met. And then when those conditions are met, the seed's going to sprout, and whatever plant that grows is necessary to grow for the season, die at the end, be broken down, put back into the soil structure because it's missing that. So that's one of the ways is take seed starting, go to, Vessi Seeds, Johnny Seeds. They have the microgreen kits that you can buy where they'll send you a pound of seeds.
mhm,
Start those, start 10 of different seeds, okay, and grow out, keep that water from your sprouting, okay, spray that onto your soil, spray that onto your plants. You're getting biology, and considering that a seed, until it reaches the cotyledon stage, okay, it's
mhm.
at that true leaf, those first leaves, the most nutrient dense that is possible for a plant is in those first few days or a week of time. The mother plant put everything that her baby needed for that first burst of life into that seed. So if you take that little sprout and you take those sprouts out right away, all that nutrients that the mother put into that seed for her young is in that water. So you've got all those building blocks and all that biology.
Yes,
Spray that out there, baby, and you're going to see some amazing stuff happen.
that's right. Well, you spoke a lot about what's coming up on your channel. Do you have any like last announcements you want to make to everybody about your channel?
Um, Guys, it's a mishmash, it's a variety. It's all about the biology, but it also that includes energy, frequency, vibration. There's so many topics that correlate into overall life on our planet, and that's what we really focus on, is supplying knowledge and understanding so you can take the golden nuggets out of it and use it in your environment, because we're all living in different environments,
Mhm.
and make yourself and your plant and your environment as healthy as you possibly can. Make your own health, a priority. And food is necessary in our lives, but it can be medically beneficial to you and your health, but only if you're growing it so it is alive and has that nutrients, has that biology for you. So we cover all kinds of different topics, and it's just come and check it out. I said, like, I'm starting a daily show every day. I'm going to be either having a guest on or just yakking myself. But I got a lot of stuff in my brain I'm going to be sharing out. So it's all about the biology. Check out our playlists. The Soil Matters. We're in our third season. Andy Lopez, the Invisible Garden, and I are in our third season. Conversations in Ken's Cafe. It's the third season. We've been doing this. We're going into our third year, so there's a ton of information that you can go back and check out. So enjoy, come, everybody that's out there, help everybody out, help the community out, help Shawnee out, you know, ask her questions, ask everybody questions. The more questions, the more answers you're going to get. They might not all be right answers because science is always changing,
Yes.
but we're always learning and we're always willing to help and share. And we love you all. And thank you very much, Shawnee, for having me on your channel. And I'm hoping to have you on Conversations in Ken's Cafe soon as well.
That's right. We can get that scheduled. Thank you so much for being my very first interview here at Shawnee Grows. I'm going to drop you down if you want to hang out and you can stay for a little bit. Otherwise,
Sure.
I will be in touch with you.
Perfect.
Oh,
I was
what?
just saying you did a great job on your first interview, young lady.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, wow, right? Wow. Let's see here. Like what you see, don't forget to subscribe for more gardening chats. And again, wow, what an incredible conversation. Huge thank you to Ken from It's All About the Biology for sharing his knowledge with us today. I hope you all found value in this discussion. Soil health is such an important part of growing thriving gardens. For our poll tonight, what's your biggest soil challenge? Poor drainage, low nutrients, hard compact soil, too much sand or clay. We had 39% low nutrients. So I hope you gathered some ideas on how to build more nutrients in your soil with the things you have without having to go out and buy anything. Check out the description. It has all the contact methods for It's All About the Biology. It has their channel. You can go on over and see which show you'd like to stop by on since they're doing something every day. Don't forget to join the community at shawneegrows.com. We have an email list. We have PDFs, one's free. We have a couple for purchase. And check out the new podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Amazon Music. It is called Learn As You Grow. And I actually was able to connect it to YouTube. So there's a section that says podcasts. You'll see the feed there. Our next goal is to hit 3,000 watch hours by May 31st. So share this out with everyone. And guess what? Upcoming here on the channel, tomorrow night, I'm going to talk about signs of spring. Then Sunday, we're going to do winter sowing techniques, and it might not be what you think it is, but it might be what you think it is. So stop on by and see what I have to say. Thank you all so much for being so supportive of the channel. Remember to grow every day in every way.